what's your message to the fans after a performance like this and a 1-5 close to the season?
Yeah, it's just disappointing. It's disappointing the way we finished our season. Obviously, it's definitely not good enough. Things start with me, and I got to make sure that, I'm holding myself accountable and I'm doing all I can to, help our football team win on and off the football field, but just not good enough.
What, in terms of run defense, were there some things today that you can pinpoint that led to Henry and Spears having such good days?
I mean, and not until I really dive into the tape, but, obviously we had missed tackles again and some of the same self-inflicted, gap integrity rules, things like that. I would venture to say would show up today. But, until we really dive into the tape, it's hard to, fully comment on that.
The misses Trevor had, was that lack of practice time, you think, for the last few weeks, or anything that you can?
I mean, it could be, it could be, but those are obviously plays that he knows that he can make, and just unfortunate at the end. We were just a couple inches away from either scoring or catching that deep ball at the end, but it's all something we have to process now moving forward.
The sequence on goal line, third one, the throw, and then the sneak. Are you hopeful that next year, you guys can generate more of a push? It seems like short yardage was an issue all year.
Yeah, those are all things that we'll have to take a look at this spring.
Mike, I don't know if you addressed before we got in here, but passing up the field goal instead of or going for the touchdown.
Yeah, at that point, where it was in the game, the 3 points really didn't matter. You were going to need a touchdown at some point. So you get the touchdown and the 2 point right there, and you're back in the game.
Doug, what are the emotions that you're feeling right now after that?
I mean, me personally, it's just I'm frustrated. I'm disappointed. I'm mad, angry. My heart hurts obviously for the players, coaches involved. They've worked their tails off, but today's game was sort of our season in a nutshell, really. The mistakes, the penalties, the turnovers, missed tackles, and those are all things that hurt us down the stretch.
Is it more disappointment or more frustration?
I think it's the disappointment, honestly. I know we're a good football team. I see it during the week and how the guys prepare, I got to look at why it doesn't show up on game day, and those are all things that I'll take a look at, in the coming weeks.
But Josh said in there that the last 6 weeks felt like they were just looking for a spark and they were just never able to find one. Do you kind of get that sense too? Because they seemed to find it last year.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. But thing is, you can't sit around and wait for a spark. You got to be the spark, right? That's either me being it or Josh being it or Trevor being it or something, and then your team catches fire. And that's all part of learning how to win, learning how to do things right, repeatedly week in and week out, and it's a long season, and I know there's going to be losses during the year. I mean, you're going to lose a game, you're going to lose a player, to injury and things like that, but it doesn't change, your attitude and your mentality towards trying to win games.
What put into and I apologize if you've asked this, on the Trevor stretching the arm out further, but did you feel like he could, because of his length, that he could get there even though it was a full yard to go?
Yeah, I mean, Trevor's trying to make a play. Obviously had success in the past on it. Just came up inches short, but can't fault him for trying to make a play.
Was that the call play from the get-go, or is it something that he went to at the line because he saw something?
He saw something. It wasn't the actual play call, but he saw something there, and he had an opportunity to sneak it, and with his length, usually that works.
Coach, what was the single biggest issue this season that kept you guys out of the playoffs?
gosh, I don't think there was one single issue. I think there was multiple issues. I look at, we talked a lot all season, execution, third down red zone. You look at the turnovers, versus the takeaways, the penalties. All those things just add up, right? So there's multiple things I think that we just didn't play clean football games. And down the stretch, I think that was our, the amount of turnovers we had in the last 4 or 5 games. Those things add up, and you just can't give your opponents that many opportunities in games. You just can't. It's hard to overcome, and so I think there's a few things you can really kind of pinpoint.
Doug, last season you guys had an ability to finish, right? Like down the stretch of last season. This year, you guys aren't able to have that for some reason, despite having really the same personnel. How do you maybe make sense of that? Just not being able to finish and execute when you do have like the same cast of guys that were able to do it last season.
Well, you got to remember this is a new year. This isn't last year. Teams we play are good football teams. They get paid to stop us, and we get paid to stop them and move the football and vice versa. And it's you got to take everything, and you got to. It's kind of case by case, right? It's year by year. It's game by game. This is a week to week business, and it's how well can you perform for 3 hours on a Sunday afternoon, right? And then you put that one behind you and you go to the next one. You put that behind you and you go to the next one. And we didn't do that consistently enough, right? And it goes back to the penalties and the turnovers. You won't be consistent if you don't get that fixed, right? If you don't stop the run, or at least slow a run team down, right? You just can't gain the consistency you want. It always puts you behind, and again, those are all things that we need to, and I need to look at moving forward.
How difficult is that
Last one
process to figure out how much of it is execution by the players, how much of it is system and coaching, and figure out exactly what you have to do to fix it for next season?
Well, I think it's a little bit of everything, but again, it just comes down to now, taking time and going back through everything and really studying it and evaluating it. And I think it's, as coaches, our biggest, what we need to do is we need to communicate, right, with our players and make sure they understand the game plan or the technique or the scheme for that week. And then it's the players who take it. They have to study it based on the tape, and then go do their job, right, and go let their talent take over. And so it's a two-way street, right? But obviously, coaches are held accountable, and that'll start with me.
How baffling was it season right here with having oftentimes 8 or 9 men in the box, and you weren't able to slow down Derrick Henry the way you would have wanted?
Yeah, I mean that's the whole game plan, right? I mean that's what you got to do, and that coming in, and that's the frustrating part. That's the disappointing part, that you know what's coming, and you still can't stop it. And great player. Listen to me. He's a great player, and he's a load. And give him credit. He had a good game today.